present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
The first demand is that we have effective civil rights legislation, no compromise, no filibuster, and that it includes public accommodation, decent housing, integrated education, FAPC, and the right to vote. What do you say? Number two, we demand that segregation be ended in every school district in the year 1963. We demand the enforcement.
Standing before the Lincoln Memorial on the 28th of August, in the centennial year of emancipation, I affirm my complete personal commitment to the struggle for jobs and freedom for Americans. To fulfill that commitment, and this pledge should be kept and framed and placed in your home for the inspiration of your generations to come. And now, on behalf of the law enforcement,
But the fact is that it will make people pause long enough to consider whether it is right or wrong that a Negro should vote, that he should have a decent place to live, that he should be able to send his kids to a good hospital, get their teeth fixed, and have a decent job. That's, if we serve that much of a function, then I think that we've served it well. I don't think it matters beyond that, and let the rest lay where it will.
See what you think of it. We will march in Washington on August 28th, 1963, along with hundreds of thousands of our fellow Americans who believe in equal opportunity and freedom for us all. We will march as citizens because we wish actively to express our support for the civil rights legislation now before the Congress and towards its passage. We will march because we recognize the events of the summer of 1963 as among the most significant we have lived through, and we wish to be a part of these events and to make of this time and of this time when promises we made to ourselves a century ago will finally be kept. We've formed a committee to encourage others to march with us, composed of Marlon Brando, Peter Brown, Tony Curtis, Mel Ferrer, Tony Franciosa, Virgil Fry, Jim Garner, Charlton Heston, Burt Lancaster, Billy Wilder, so on, so on. Now, if anybody has any questions about that, this is the time for them.
There was some historian that said the march of great armies is not so strong as an idea whose time has come.
That's it, yeah. And this is the time. This summer is the time for it.
Well, I need some bodies for Cleveland now, for Tuesday or Wednesday.
Well, let's hope. Who wants...
God has placed a responsibility on my shoulders. I'm sorry, Mr. Wallace. God has spoken to me. I'm sorry, Mr. Eastland and Mr. Bonnet. God has told me that he wants freedom for his people. I'm sorry, Mr. Thurman of South Carolina. I'm sorry, Mr. Talmadge of Georgia. It may be nagging to you, but God has spoken to me. And I'm not going to run from the responsibility. It may mean going through the floods and through the waters, but I'm going if it means that. It may mean going through the storms and through the winds, but I'm going if it means that. May mean going to jail, but I'm going if it means that. It may even mean physical death, but if it means that I will die standing up for the freedom of my people. God has spoken to me.
were stripped of everything we had and been cast into the fiery furnace. A land where they've been making it hot as hell for us for 400 years. You're in the furnace of affliction, the furnace of exploitation, the furnace of deprivation, the furnace of indignity, the furnace of everything low down that you can ever dream of. And just as Daniel remained strong because he refused to accept the religion and God of his slave master, has integration solved the problem or made it worse? When you integrate a white community seeking better housing, history here during the past 10 years has proven that the whites cut out. They flee to the suburbs, and the community that you thought you were integrating soon becomes another all-black slum, another all-black ghetto. But do you really think the white man today is going to...
I'm sorry, I do not choose to sell you a ticket.
You do not choose to sell me a ticket? Is this because of my race?
No comment.
No comment. Thank you very much, sir.
The farmer in the dale, hi-yo, the burial, the farmer in the dale. Oh, God. The natives are restless tonight. The farmer takes the wife, the black wife.
All niggers.
Lord is on outside. Lord is on outside. Lord is on outside someday.
I'll be admitted?
No, sir, you cannot be admitted.
Why?
I am not going to serve you.
Because of my race?
I'm not going to serve you.
Because of my race.
Move on.
Birmingham has inspired Negroes all over the South and over the nation, and I think it has caused them to feel that there is power in this approach, and it has caused them to feel a new sense of destiny and a new sense of dignity. I think on the heels of the Supreme Court's decision outlawing segregation at lunch counters and outlawing the city ordinances that make segregation possible, we will see developments that will take place in many communities. I think Negroes will take advantage of these new rights, and I think we will see more mass jail ends if necessary in order to gain these rights. No, I still think the vast majority of Negroes in the South are convinced that nonviolent resistance is the most potent weapon available to the Negro in the struggle for freedom. Now, this is not to say that the average Negro feels that nonviolence should be a way of life for him, that is a creed, but at least it's the best technique. And I think they have this conviction because so many victories have been achieved by following this method. So I don't see any dissatisfaction. So certainly there are some who...
I always said that the Kennedy administration did more than any predecessor administration in this area and came forth with the most comprehensive civil rights bill of any administration. Our only disagreement was on strategy rather than on the question of the president's basic commitment to civil rights. We considered him an ally, and we considered the president a friend of civil rights. Now, I feel that President Johnson is also committed on this issue. I was very much impressed with his awareness of the issues involved and his comprehension of the depth and dimensions of the issues, and I think he will stand up in a very forthright manner on this issue. Even though he is a Southerner, I'm very happy to see a fellow Southerner as president standing up for civil rights, and I'm sure that President Johnson will stand up right through on this issue.
And we will not be satisfied until all of God's children can walk the streets of St. Augustine, Florida, with a sense of dignity and self-respect. We will not be satisfied until the walls of segregation in St. Augustine, Florida, have been finally crushed by the battering rams of surging justice. We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We will not be satisfied. These young men have probably been killed in the state of Mississippi. I started thinking about the fact that it was just not a Negro involved, just not a white person, but a Negro and white person suffering, working, and even dying, if necessary, for freedom and human dignity together. The question that we face tonight is not only who murdered them if they have been murdered. They were murdered by a morally inclement climate. A climate filled with torrents of hatred and jostling winds of violence. They've been murdered. They were murdered by a system of racial segregation, which over the years relegated persons to the status of things. And this is why we must make it clear that never again, whether we live in Greenwood, Mississippi, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, or Chitlin Switch, Alabama, we will never again accept segregation because it is an evil system.
My fellow Americans, I am about to sign into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I want to take this occasion to talk to you about what that law means to every American. 188 years ago this week, a small band of we believe that all men are created equal, yet many are denied equal treatment. We believe that all men have certain unalienable rights. Yet many Americans do not enjoy those rights. We believe that all men are entitled to the blessings of liberty. Yet millions are being deprived of those blessings, not because of their own failures, but because of the color of their skin. The reasons are deeply embedded in history and tradition. This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country. So, let us close the springs of racial poison. Let us pray for wise and understanding hearts. Let us lay aside irrelevant differences and make our nation whole. Let us hasten that day when our unmeasured Hello, Roy. So glad to see you all. Had anybody talked to you all about I wanted to talk to you before you leave? Have you? Will you see that the others, I want to talk to them when this is over with?
And I'm just wondering if people in this room understand, one, that people should be expected to get beaten, they should expect to spend in jail, and it may go beyond the summer when they're in jail, depending upon what the bond is, and that they should expect possibly somebody to get killed. And I was just wondering if there's any reaction to that, or has that been discussed, and is it fruitful at this first stage of the orientation to raise these questions so that people want to turn back, they can turn back now without going through this whole week without understanding the tremendous dangers that are involved.
And therefore will understand and share our concerns. At this moment, there is nothing more urgent than finding the 3 young men who have been missing since Sunday. For our sons, all of them, I beseech your help and cooperation.
That this plantation owner said that I would have to leave if I didn't go down and withdraw. And about that time, the man walked up, Mr. Marlowe, and he said, "Is Fannie Lou back yet?" So my husband said, "She is." I walked out of the house at this time. He said, "Fannie Lou said, you've been to the courthouse to try to register, and we are not ready for this in Mississippi." I said, "Well, I didn't register for you. I tried to register for myself." He said, "We are not going to have this in Mississippi."
Try to bring your knees all the way up to your elbows. Don't cross your legs. Hey now, most likely a cop won't try to chunk you in here, but he will hit you across here. You can generally take those licks. But now notice only other parts of his body that can be hit across the rump.
within the Southern District of Mississippi conspired together with each other and with other persons unknown to injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate Michael Henry Spurner, James Earl Cheney, and Andrew Goodman, citizens of the United States, in the free exercise and enjoyment of rights secured to them by the Constitution.
What did the court say?
What did the court say, Mr. Madden?
I said you're not going to ever eat here. Now, do you want to close the business? Is that what you want to do?
What do you want to do?
You can't eat here.
The government gave you a decision. What do you want to do?
I'm not going to integrate.
You're going to abide by the Constitution.
Put this on TV. Put it on TV. I want the world to see this. The story is, listen to the way I tell it to you. Wait, what are you going to say? I stopped my car to take a picture of that.
Civil rights movement. Then if they don't listen once more, we will dramatize this whole situation and seek to arouse the conscience of the federal government by marching by the thousands on places of registration all over this state.
This prayer we ask in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen. Amen.
All right, now will you follow me, please? Troopers here advance toward the group. See that they turn around and disperse.
think this is a demonstration of progress that is definitely being made. The fact that once our people were totally and terribly brutalized here, and today we can march by this very same spot without being stopped and without being harassed up to this point, represents a level of progress that's very significant. We are going to walk non-violently and peacefully to let the nation and the world know that we are tired now. Yes, sir. We've lived with slavery and segregation 345 years. We waited a long time for freedom. Yes, we are trying to remind the nation of the urgency of the moment. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to make Selma, Alabama a better city. Now is the time to transform Alabama, the heart of Dixie, to a state with a heart for brotherhood and peace and goodwill. A level of progress that's very significant. We are not afraid We have almost 10,000 people who will be marching out of Selma today. This is magnificent and this is marvelous. Mr. Harry Belafonte will bring some of the great entertainers of our nation. They will be here, or rather, to meet us in Montgomery. Mr. Belafonte, Mr. Sammy Davis is closing down his Broadway show in order to be here. That's Tony Bennett, Lena Horne, Dick Gregory is already here. Nipsey Russell will be in that group, George Kirby, Alan King, and I could just go on down the list. It'll be some 50-odd who will be with us Wednesday, and they're going to march with us Thursday.
What happened in Selma is part of a far larger movement which reaches into every section and state of America. But really, it's all of us who must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice. And we shall overcome. Today is a triumph for freedom as huge as any victory that's ever been won on any battlefield. And today, we strike away the last major shackle of those fierce and ancient bonds. Millions of Americans are denied the right to vote because of their color. This law will ensure them the right to vote. Let me now say to every Negro in this country, you must register. You must vote. You must learn so your choices advance your interest and the interest of our beloved nation. And every family across this great entire searching land will live stronger in liberty, will live more splendid in expectation, and will be prouder to be American because of the act that you have passed that I will sign today. Thank you.
Let's get them up there. Okay, you want a second? First one drops her hands is dead, man. Shut it off, get out of that car with your hands up. All of you, the one in the back seat, too. Come on, get up. Get your hands up, I said. Drop that purse and get your hands up. Get your hands up. Get them up. Get your hands up. Let's go. Come on. Right this way. Emil?
Hey, that's what caused her, Bill. Hey, Bill, what caused her? Captain, you think on my land.
Hey! One little kid. One little kid.
You see that? You see, that's what's caused it. You see that? Nothing but a 13-year-old kid. You see that? What are you guys standing here for? Get on the white man! Get in! Get the white man!
Clear the sidewalks up ahead. You people enter your homes. Please go in your homes. Please go in your homes.
All the white community has tried to do is placate, you know, just keep the niggas cool, you know, like pass the Civil Rights Bill. Most Negroes who are aware of, well, who've been around, who have the slightest bit of awareness of what's going on politically in the country, they take the Civil Rights Bill as the new method of placating the Negro.
We've got to build so much strength
in building our community that if they come to get one person, they're going to have to mess with us all. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. We've got to build so much strength inside our community so that when LBJ says, come here, boy, to my war, we say, hell no, we ain't going.
We want black power. 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 What do you want? What do you want?
We don't want brotherhood. You keep the brotherhood.
The Negro is not the problem. The problem is what Negro connotates, what it stands for. The pigment of skin isn't the problem. The problem is that the Negro in this country today stands for venereal disease, prostitution, the numbers racket, and crime.
I've heard it said that the cause of civil rights has fallen backward in this past year. And those who are critical say that riots and violence have produced new waves of white resistance to further progress. That the civil rights movement itself is rent by factionalism and extremism. And vital civil rights legislation has apparently floundered in the Congress for this session. And political candidates running on a platform of never, never have defeated good men of moderate progressive views. Now, my fellow Americans, I would be less than honest with you if I did not say that in all of this there is some grain of truth.
Now, the other problem which caused this situation is the NAACP. Their continual announcements of planned demonstrations, their continual announcements of mass meetings has worked these people up in a frenzy, these irresponsible hoodlums who the so-called civil rights workers are working in their behalf for first-class citizenship. Well, I think that NAACP should turn right around and start doing something about demonstrating against these undesirables in their own race and nationality.
Unfortunately, I have never seen as strong a reaction amongst the white citizen as there is at the present time.
I think that there's a realization in this country that black power is not just a mere slogan, nationally or internationally. It is real that black people can come together and start determining for their lives how they're going to live and controlling their economic and political lives. If you say that you have to bring the country to its knees if it messes with a black man, you're saying that the only protection for black people is that they unite. So that when one black man is touched because he's black, there's some protection for him. Now, it's obvious that that protection does not exist in this country. It does not now exist. And the only people who can have that protection are black people. And black people know that. Now, white people may not know that. So it means that you have to build a movement so strong in this country that if one black man is touched, every black man will rise up and let this country know they're not going to tolerate it. I am saying that we must build a movement of black people that will protect ourselves so that we are willing to stop that by any means necessary. Now, I'm not concerned about the question of violence. It seems to me that that will depend upon how, in fact, white people respond. That's the rationale, that the reason why black people aren't this is because they're lazy, unambitious, stupid, have rhythm, and they eat watermelon. They need them to civilize the savages in Cicero, who throw rocks and bricks at a peaceful and lovable black man like Dr. Martin Luther King.
I will never change in my basic idea that nonviolence is the most potent weapon available to the Negro in his struggle for freedom and justice. I think for the Negro to turn to violence would be both impractical and immoral. The vast majority of Negroes still feel that the best way to deal with the dilemma that we face in this country is through nonviolent resistance. I think we've got to see that a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the economic plight of the Negro poor has worsened. We don't have long. The mood of the Negro community now is one of urgency, one of saying that we aren't going to wait, that we've got to have our freedom. We've waited too long. No other racial group has been a slave on American soil. It's nice to say other people were down and they got up. They were not slaves on American soil. The other thing is that the Negro has had high visibility. And because of the prejudices existing in this country, his color has been against him. It's been against him, and they've used this to keep him from moving up. In the final analysis, when you say to a man that you are in this position because of your race or because of your color, you say to that man that he can never get out of it. Other racial groups have been able maybe to change the accent or change the names, but the Negro can't.
Martin Luther King is going through an agonizing reappraisal. He doesn't belong to the decadent, aristocratic colonials of the civil rights movement. It means you're willing to cooperate with your white brother and sister if they're going to cooperate with you in terms of giving you the same things that they have. That we're not going to let nonviolence go all the way. That when nonviolence comes to the point of violence, we're going to meet violence with violence for our manhood. Not because we're black power, but for our manhood, that's all.
I think Cicero in the North symbolizes the same kind of hardcore resistance to change as Selma in the South. And I think it will, in fact, eventually be the Selma of the North in the sense that we've got to have a confrontation in that community.
Realizing that the Negro in Chicago, as in most northern cities, has enough buying power to make the difference between profit and loss in almost every industry, we will launch a program called Operation Breadbasket, which would involve negotiations with every industry in Chicago for new and better jobs for Negroes. If these industries fail to comply with our requests, we will have no alternative but to withdraw our economic support. And I predict that if we will stick together, we will inject new meaning into the veins of Alabama politics, and in the process, we will make for a more vibrant democracy in this state. And this will not be a state for white people only. It will not be a state for black people only. It will be a state for all of God's children, and we will bring in that glad day, which will be the day not of the white man, not of the black man, but it will be the day of man as man, and every man will respect every other man. Thank you very much. Let us work and vote together until we can sing all over this country. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He's trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. And then go on and sing, glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Our God is marching on.
We stand on the eve of a black revolution, brothers. Masses of our people are in the streets. They're fighting tit for tat, tooth for tooth, an eye for an eye and a life for a life. The rebellions that we see are merely dress rehearsals for the revolution that's to come. We better get ourselves some guns and prepare ourselves.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. The American Negro collectively is richer than most nations of the world. We have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year, which is more than all of the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. Did you know that? That's power right there if we know how to pool it. We don't need any bricks and bottles. We don't need any Molotov cocktails. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country and say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating His children right. It's nonviolence or non-existence. That is where we are today. And also in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done and done in a hurry, to bring the colored peoples of the world out of their long years of poverty, their long years of hurt and neglect, the whole world is doomed. We're going to build our shanties right in Washington and live right there. I'm not playing about this thing. I've agonized over it, and I'm trying to save America. And that's what you are trying to do if you will join this movement. We are trying to save this nation.
We can't continue to live in a nation every summer going up in flames, every day killing up people in Vietnam like we're killing. We can't continue this way as a nation and survive. And you can believe it if you want to. And some of us are going to have to take the burden of saving the soul of America. It may be true that morality cannot be legislated, but behavior can be regulated. It may be true that the law can't change the heart, but it can restrain the heartless. It may be true that the law can't make a man love me, but it can restrain him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important also. And so while the law may not change the hearts of men,
Western District, Tennessee. Show you my done.
There you go. You're Deputy Marshal.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes, sir.
You're Deputy Marshal?
Yes,
I'm
I
Dr.
am.
Abernathy.
We have temporary restraining order.
Reverend Bevel would be
wait a minute,
in.
this is Lee. This is one for Lee here.
This is Bevel.
Bevel. Now you're Abernathy.
No, I'm Abernathy.
Watch the bottle, left rock. Watch the bottle.
How do you gonna stay over here? You're not going to Mexico.
Well, I guess I'll go now, because they sort of broke up.
What way?
I'm going over there. 1 o'clock? Oh, okay.
You know that drive to go?
Fine. Where you going?
We go right for the car.
I'll ride with them.
You have another room. You got to get. And you executive vice president, you need to ride the big car. Where you working on? What's that?
You all come right on now. Well, I'm getting ready to have a meeting on that now. I have not seen the injunction, the terms of it. We have our lawyers looking into this whole thing, and we do feel that it would be a basic denial of First Amendment privileges to have an injunction take effect that would prevent us from marching. We stand on the First Amendment. But I must say that we are determined to go on here in Memphis, and if this necessitates breaking an injunction, it is a possibility that we will have to do it. And I feel that we can still have a nonviolent demonstration, and that we will have a nonviolent demonstration here in Memphis. The important thing is that we are not going to be stopped by mace or by injunctions or any other methods that the city plans to use, and I think they're making a grave mistake, because I think this will bring much more support nationally and otherwise to the movement. And we can't stop here because all of these things are related. After all, this is a matter of dignity. This is a struggle for jobs and adequate income. It is a struggle for recognition as a union and as a person. And if we stopped here, this would be a defeat for the unionization of the South. It would be a setback for our whole movement, and that is why we feel that we've got to stick it out. Well, I think this is a real possibility. I've met with black militants and black nationalists all across the country over the last few weeks. In California with Mr. Karenga. Met with Leroy Jones in Trenton just last week, with Stokely and Rap Brown about a month ago. And the one thing they've agreed on, that even though they may disagree with the tactics of nonviolence and demonstration, they would not in any way interfere with the campaign, and they will support it in the best ways they can in terms of helping recruit people, in terms of the food, the housing in Washington. So I think there is a deeper unity growing because we feel that we have a common problem, namely the problem of poverty, of deprivation, of bad housing and bad education, and we've got to stick together in order to solve these problems.
The Moses of 1968, Martin Luther King.